Uh, why not start with a scratch? That's the best way to start, I find. Hey Facebook, welcome to the LifeHack Show, episode 3. My name's Greg Sellar, and I've got a very special guest host today, Mr. Cam Byrnes.
Hey guys.
We're going to get into a proper introduction with Cam in just a second as we go live on Bondi Radio. But for now, let's get the party started. So I'm going to fade out the music. Welcome to the LifeHack Show with Greg Sellar.
Broadcasting from the world-famous Bondi Beach.
Hey guys, welcome to the LifeHack Show with Greg Sellar, episode number 3, and we are down here at the Bucket List on Bondi Beach on a beautiful day. This is our weekly mashup of all things designed to hack the status quo. We're going to get in there and try and change the frame on the way you see things in life, and to do that we're going to get in there and mash up and rip into some of those thinking and behavior patterns with the sole aim of getting better outcomes in life. I'm really pleased to share the booth today with Mr. Cam Byrnes.
Thanks, Craig.
Hooray. So Cam, I won't make you tell us about you, so I'll read what I know about you and then you can add to that. TV presenter on Channel 7's Bringing Sexy Back.
Yeah, Bringing Sexy Back.
I was going to say Getting Sexy Back, but either way, it's all a good thing. You've got your 6 and 12 week coaching programs. You're a transformational expert. 15 years in the game. 14 years in the game, okay. And you've got your ultimate results coaching program, including your celebrity client list. And I'm going to leave some of these out, but MasterChef's Menu.
Yep.
You got Jackie O.
Yep.
You've got Larry Emder.
Yes,
that was a big one. I saw the cover on Men's Health, and you are the Men's Health fitness expert, or one of them. Yes. And most pleasingly for me, when she's in town, Spice Girl Mel B.
Yes, Mel B. She's a rocket, that one.
We'll get your best Mel B story that you can actually tell.
Ooh, yeah. I've had to think of one.
Yeah. I'm sure. Have you signed an NDA?
Yeah, I have. But this one's allowed.
Okay. you may not see her for a while. You'll have forgotten, and so will she. All right. So today, what we're going to talk about on the show is what we call mind mobility. And with being a transformational expert, you will have probably seen and heard almost every excuse. And in terms of mindset, have heard everything to come out of what we will later describe as a fixed mindset. That everybody has possibly got to say. True or false?
Oh, that's a massive true.
True. I'll get your top 3 excuses a little later on.
Yeah,
so
no
you
worries.
can put the thinking on about that.
Top 3, the best top 3.
Top 3, yeah. You probably won't have to think too hard about it because I'm imagining everyone's got the same ones.
Yeah, there's definitely a reoccurring thing.
Okay, cool. So basically with mind mobility, it's a little bit of a play on words because when we talk about mobility, obviously from a fitness background, Cam, you understand what joint mobility is. And so how would you describe it to the listeners out there, joint mobility?
Look, my best description for joint mobility is taking a joint and being able to move it in a full range of motion. That's being able to use it in its full functionality so it can cope with whatever you're going to put it through.
Okay. And what happens to joint mobility, that kind of full range of motion, when you work something out in the same way probably too often, when you do the same repetitive motion or you strength train in a lot of the same way?
Look, the first thing that can happen is injury, which will then reduce the range of motion.
Okay.
So moving something like it's nearly hypermobile. Then, if you're doing it too often, tendons, things are overworked. There's no stability in that joint. So overuse can restrict use, and it's quite common.
Okay, so we've got restricted use. What happens as well with joint mobility in terms of if you don't do stuff to counteract the training that you're doing? What happens to the range of motion?
Oh, it decreases.
Okay.
It compounds actually in decreasing mobility.
All right, so it gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse.
In a nutshell, it's not good. You either injure yourself or you're going to have a decreased range of motion around that joint. And I wanted to transfer as kind of the theme today of moving or using a similar analogy with mind mobility, and the idea that you are going to keep yourself hooked in your status quo. You're going to stay where you are, repeating the same fail cycles over and over and over again if you persist in holding on to those often false stories that you've told yourself over and over and over again. And I'm going to preface it right here that it's not all your fault. We're going to get into a little bit of bashing the parents later on. That's going to be a segment of this show. And last week with Louisa Nicola, we talked about actually how much baggage we drag with us through life. So it's getting an understanding of where that actually comes from and what we can do, I guess, to change the script and the way that we actually see the world.
We've both been subjects to this. We've had to work through our own.
Yeah. Our own false what?
False beliefs.
False beliefs, yeah. Do you know what's really interesting is it's probably one of the biggest fears that people have in not actually wanting to change. It's quite a tough thing to get to the point of understanding that you've been wrong all along. Have you ever had one of those arguments where it's probably with a partner, I'm guessing, where you clearly lose at some point? You've lost the argument, yet you will fight to the death, to the absolute death, just to prove a point that wasn't even true.
I have that with my clients.
Oh, really?
Like, I try and limit that sort of fighting with my family, and I keep it with my clients.
Right. And so, what's a big one that you've had?
Oh, look, it can revolve around simple things like food intake. That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
They think they're eating healthy. They honestly have believed that this food, and this food are great. It's good. They're eating in moderation. Parents have probably been feeders all their life.
Yes.
You know, and in their own head.
Mother.
Yes, mum, all you mums out there who love to feed your children. And they've got this preconceived idea that they don't eat that. And if you look at it on a scale and you try to show them, and then we end up in a big argument.
My mum came over the other day and I had to text her because it's her way of caring that she bakes stuff and then she brings it into the house. So if you try not to have stuff in the house, I literally had to text her and say, Mum, listen, I love you, but please don't bring any crap into the house today. So no cakes, no slices, no anything. And so she bought cut up watermelon and grapes.
Well, you know, you could always ask for a nice patchwork quilt instead.
Yeah, well,
she's got to get into knitting.
My house is very particular on what we have.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Note: don't be buying me no presents.
No clutter.
No clutter. Exactly. So it is what's interesting. Pulling that back when you talk about your parents, we might as well just get into it now. Aristotle once said, show me a child at age 7 and I'll show you the man. And I think that's really indicative of the idea that most of the neural pathways that we actually have are set to a certain extent by around age 6 or 7. So if you've got a toddler under the age of 6 or 7, they are literally like sponges. They're just taking on all this information. They're soaking everything up. They're watching you put food in your mouth. They're getting introduced to all this stuff because realistically they're clean slates before that. And you've got two options. You either change the script for the next generation, or it is a case of blind leading the blind, where they're just going to do exactly what you've done. So it's a pretty big onus on parents in particular of young kids to, I guess, start early.
It's true. I'm actually working with a teenage boy at the moment who's had some pretty bad, I guess, family influences, and we're working through breaking all of them down one at a time.
Yeah, and it becomes habitual. You know, when I talk about blind leading the blind, it's that idea that it just keeps rolling on, and these stories that we've been told are true actually aren't, and they're some of the hardest habits to have to break.
Habits are nasty things to break because you actually got to accept the fact that they're wrong first, and believe that they're wrong and know that they're wrong, and then have something to replace it with. Because you can't just remove a habit; you've got to flick it the other way and reinstall something positive.
Yeah, sure. So, what's your worst habit?
My worst habit? Oh, look, okay.
You tell me yours and I'll tell you mine.
Mine horribly is chocolate at night time.
Come on.
I call it chocolate
Come
hour.
on. No,
it's chocolate hour.
No.
What do you mean by bad then?
I mean bad. Chocolate's like, yeah, everyone does chocolate. What's a bad habit? Like, and I'm going to make this up, and I know I'm not saying you do this. I pick my nose in mixed company. I don't do that. And
Well,
I'm
that
not
was your
saying
first
you do it.
go-to, Greg. That was your go-to. I'm just saying, that's the first thing that popped in.
It might even be something that you're willing to admit that you think, okay, well, that's not right.
Sometimes when I'm in crowds of people,
Yeah.
I wish there weren't any at
Okay.
all. I love working with people, but sometimes I just am fed up with people in general. I just want to be in a little cave somewhere else, away from them.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to be a people lover, so
According to who?
yeah.
Silence.
Crickets.
So yeah, I would say my worst habit is procrastination. So if
It's not a bad habit. That's everybody.
it is, but like there's 20% of people who actually procrastinate where it can become a little bad. It can become a little bad where it starts affecting
Becomes
other
chronic.
things. Yeah. Now I'm not saying I'm part of the 20%, not yet anyway. But for me, I miss a lot of boats because I have perfectionistic tendencies.
Really, that's what you call procrastination. You have procrastination because you have perfection issues.
Yeah. So basically, let's take this 30-day program.
Right.
It's like that's been a year in the making. Now, if it was truly as important as it should be to me, I should have banged it out in 30 days. I should have done a day. Now, just off the record, Cam actually put me through my paces for 12 weeks back in the winter. So we're talking like 6 months ago.
Yeah, about 6 months.
Yeah. Did a great job. Knocked 8 kilos off me. Champ Sharpie. I was talking about that then.
I know, and I kept asking him every day, so what have you done your program? I'm going to do
yeah.
it tomorrow. I'm going to do some this afternoon.
And I did little bits and pieces here and there. But the thing is like, I don't know if any of you, have you read the book The One Thing?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so it talks about this whole idea of what is going to be the single biggest thing that by doing it, everything else becomes much easier. And I know for me, finishing that 30-day life hack program will make everything easier because I'll have the workbook, I've got a training to go around it, I have a product that I can actually sell, and all my speaking engagements kind of feed off it.
Oh my God, they call that a system.
It's
You know
a
that?
system, yeah.
We're going to talk about that later.
We will talk about it later. Yeah, it is a system, but the thing is like, why am I? If I recognize that program is going to be the single biggest thing that will change everything that I do, why the hell am I not spending every waking moment doing it?
It's the way your brain engages, and you haven't been taught to sit, learn, and focus. And this is probably from your childhood, where your mum's always said, "Go out and play, kiddo. Go out and play." Where you never learned to sit down and focus in those young developmental years to learn to sit there for an hour or two and really focus on just what you're doing.
Right. Well, pleasingly, and you may not believe this, it will be finished today. Today, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that as some like proud declaration. It literally will be finished today because what I did, I've got to go to Beijing on the first week of what month are we in? I've got to go in the first week in November, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to put pressure on myself. I'm going to use parts of that workbook, which is now up over 300 odd pages. I'm going to use parts of that workbook as the basis of the training, so I have to get it off to the designer. He has to have time to design it, and it's got to be ready by the end of the month. So I was like, all right, Greg, batten the hatches, buckle down, here we go, and I've done it.
Fantastic.
It also helps when your other half is away for a week, so you have nobody to talk to, you have no music playing, there's nothing going on.
No dinner guests.
No dinner guests, no. So yeah. Getting back to what your parents told you, what are some of those things when we talk about experience and experience having a structure? What are some of the stories or sayings that your parents maybe said to you when you were young that you now know not to be true? I'll give you an example. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it is true, yeah, but the thing is, it sets the person up for this kind of lack
Of money.
This mentality of a lack of money. Okay, well, I understand money doesn't grow on trees, so yeah, it's always going to be hard to get money, to find money, to earn money. How do we do that? You know, and so there's always going to set up this lack. Have you come across any others? Any classics?
A way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
All right. Well, we all know that. That's going to be my downfall.
But that doesn't help me in my job. I'm trying to get people to lose weight, and they've been taught that to be fed, and their partners and their girlfriends are all cooking food for them and making them happy, and in fact it's actually hindering them because they're getting more and more out of shape, and we've already got an issue with food in society anyway.
And what is it? It's the one thing that is now making them unhappy, which is why they come and see you.
That's right.
Another classic one I always got was, look, life isn't fair.
Oh yes, I had that one.
Yeah, and I think that's a classic as well, because it sets up the idea that life is something that just happens to you, that you actually have no control over your own life, that you're not in control of the situations, and hey, it's just going to deal you these random blows over and over and over again that's making your life a bit...
Which means life is unfair.
Yeah, exactly. So life isn't fair. I had another good one. You'll understand when you're older.
Oh, that one's nasty.
Yeah, so it's always this idea of like, don't worry about trying to understand everything now, because it's beyond your comprehension. And when you get older, things are just going to magically fall into place. You don't need to work at it. Just by being on this earth a little bit longer, you will understand. And I have to say, I still don't understand.
Yeah, no, I don't understand either.
You sounded like you had another one.
Yeah, my dad said to me once, "The sooner you learn your place in life, son, the better."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Damn you, I'm going to prove you wrong."
And where is your place in life? Like, what was he trying to tell you?
It was just like, no, because it was around this conversation about work and job and business. It was when I was like 15 or 16 or something. And he would just be saying, well, like, don't try too hard because it's not going to work for you. Just stay there. I was like, no, that's never going to happen.
It's tough. And you know, these are these things that, you know, so around the age 6 or 7, you get this kind of like hard wiring. Now, we talked a little bit about neuroplasticity last week, and the idea that you can continue to change your brain. So that's never not an option, but it does become a lot harder. There is a hormone that's released around about age 12 that tends to solidify a lot of the neural pathways. And so what any new learning involves, if you can imagine that your thinking is like a freeway, you have to start building these little off-ramps. Ways of new thinking, and consistently do them over and over and over again in order to form new habits. I mean, what off-ramps would you say are the biggest? Let's go back to the idea of your 3 excuses first. What are the biggest excuses that you hear people say?
I was too busy, didn't have enough time.
Okay, yep.
I did really... I did great 80% of the time. It was only 20% that was bad, which is really not right. It's probably the other way around.
Yep.
And then the third excuse, the third most common excuse is, I did it all, but I just didn't give it my best.
Well, that's not really helpful then, is it?
No. They're the top, probably 3 excuses I get, because they all, and this is where in their own mind, and they've learnt this probably from an early age, and that is, hey, I did my best and that was okay.
Right.
And that will get me out of trouble because I gave it my best at the time.
Yep. And you know, it's hard. We're going to talk about being in a fixed mindset, but a fixed mindset actually says it's really difficult. It's a really difficult idea that people give over to, I did my best, and yet they still failed. And so therefore they just don't in the future. They actually pull back in a fixed mindset. So we will definitely talk about that. I wanted to say I've got this idea that most people sit on this timeline between being, you can imagine at 0 you're seriously depressed, and at, let's say, 10 you're Oprah Winfrey. You're just having a pretty good life and everyone loves you. I don't think we're depressed, but I don't think we're Oprah Winfrey either. We're not living the life of being ecstatic, and we sit and fluctuate on this timeline somewhere. Where do you find most people that you come across in your coaching programs? Where did they sit? If zero's bad, depressed, and 10's Oprah, where do you actually think they fall?
Look, it's actually funny because some people are quite happy. They're quite positive mindset, but they're not happy with where their life's at. So that depression point hasn't started to pull them back down yet. Okay. So we've got motivation and unhappiness sitting there, and the gaps hasn't been breached yet. So I try and breach the gap and get them past that halfway point of being unhappy to being happy, so they both, motivation and happiness, are together. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'd find they're either both in the middle.
Yep.
They could go either way. So we're in the middle on probably happiness, unhappiness, with the potential going further to depressed.
Yep.
With the potential going that way, not up. So they might be overweight, unmotivated, don't like life, bad relationships and family, whatever, and they're all pulling them negative because if they don't know how to deal with them properly, and this goes with how we deal with things as children and what our relationship with our family, if they haven't dealt with them, they don't know how to deal with them, it's just going to drag them downwards, right?
Yep.
Instead of bring them up. So I try and work with, hey, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but hey, let's think of the things that are pulling you back, and let's isolate them for now, and let's walk about what you can do yourself for you right now to bring you up to more happier.
Great, I love that, and I think it's important to recognize that, you know, your experience does have a structure. There is so many things that we take in during the day, and your short-term memory is just like it's like a box. So there's only so many things that we can pay attention to, which is going to be the next chunk of what we talk about. But we have to DDG stuff. So we delete stuff, we distort things, and we generalize things to suit our experience. So part of the problem is that you don't see the world the way that I see it.
No.
But that goes for everybody, and everybody sees the world in their own slightly different way. If you can imagine just pulling down a glass sheet in front of your eyes, and as information comes to us, we see the world based on how our experience has been over however many years that we've lived on this earth. And I think it's really interesting to know that no two people will have had the same experience. As far as your clients go, the people that you come across, would you say that most of them are more visual? Are they more auditory? Do they, you know, love to be, I'm going to say love to be touched. That sounds a bit wrong.
A small proportion actually do.
Yeah.
And it might just literally be a tap on the side of the shoulder.
Yeah.
For them, I can get them to do anything I need them to do within training.
Yeah.
Exercises, homework, whatever. If I give them just a little bit of connection, that's how they connect. But most people are usually practical. It's checklists.
Yeah.
They love lists of things. Hey, this is what I need you to do. Go and do this. Go and buy that. Hey, this is your workout for today. They love a list. They want to follow it.
I think that was me.
Yeah. 100%. If I was only slightly horrible, the lists would have been way worse.
Right. It was like, be here at 6 o'clock, be there, eat this.
Here's your shopping list.
Do that. Right. And then, it worked, which is great. I think there's a little bit of a trend. I call it the journey from loser to legend.
Nice.
And
I like it.
Think about 4L. So the losers, and it sounds a really tough term, but hey, wear it if this is you. The losers are the people who constantly say, I can't, or they'll come up with excuses like, oh, it's not the same way for me, you don't understand. Is that sound familiar to you?
It's usually people who've got quite a bit of weight on it. And the thing is, it hasn't just happened for them. They've put it on at an early age, and it's just continually grown, and they've never had success with weight loss. So for them, that one thing in their life has pulled them down in every other aspect.
Sure, and it would equally apply to people in careers. Oh, I'm not going to go for the job because those things never happen to me, or I can't do that because it's not in my wheelhouse. Whereas other people just go, I'll put my job application in, we'll see what happens, and it might work, and if it does, great, and if it doesn't, then that's okay as well. It could also be in things like schooling for teenagers. Some school kids don't actually want to participate in sport because they think, well, I'm not gonna win,
Or
so
not
what's
get
the
picked for a
point?
team.
Or
even.
not get picked for a team. Yeah, so they're the losers, basically.
That's a bit harsh.
That's what I said. It's a bit harsh. They're the people who need to change their mindset, and it could be that they're in denial.
Yeah.
Okay, it could be that the circumstances are the same for them as it is for everybody else in the line in not getting picked for the team. So they've got an equal chance of being picked or not picked. It's just some of the mentality around that. And then as they move up, I've got the likers. So the likers are kind of that, you know, when you get people on Facebook who never make a comment, but they always press the like button.
Yes.
Yeah. So the likers are kind of those people who sit on the outside. They sit on the fence on a lot of issues. They don't really like to cause a stir, which I find used to be me. Yeah, but it's really changing a lot as I get older, and I just think, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. You have an opinion and you like to engage it.
Yes. I still have that moment, particularly on Facebook, where I write something that's quite strong, and I think, oh, who's going to kick off about this? How's it going to make me see? And then 2 years ago, I would have written it and then deleted it.
Just to get your fix.
Just to get my fix. And now I put it up there, and if it starts to kick off, then I delete it. But at least it's up there.
But
for
you're
some
not a
time.
liker anymore.
I'm not
You're
a liker
TV
anymore.
watcher.
I'm not a liker anymore. I'm what we call a lender. I've moved on to the next stage. So a lender is somebody who kind of hits the peaks and troughs. So in terms of their success, they'll have up days, and then they'll have these days that are so bland or down. Not down. I don't get depressed, but
Uneventful.
uneventful. Yeah.
Because you haven't actively made something of the day.
Yeah, where there is a chance to make every day great, I will have great days and then I will do nothing. And so I kind of lend to this kind of ebb and flow of success. And then I think the last one, the highest one, is the legends. And these are the people who are just cracking on doing it. And I admire them. Where would you put yourself? So loser, liker,
Would you
lender,
believe?
and legend.
I'll be honest. And through high school, I was the loser.
Really?
Not even kidding. I was the loser. But the things at some point you have to believe in yourself. You have to. So it wasn't until mid-late 20s where I started going, actually, I can do this stuff. I see other people doing it, or people overtake me.
Yeah.
I go, they're behind me and they've overtaken me. Something's wrong. And then I became into that the lender.
Yeah.
So for most probably late 20s, early 30s, I was the lender. Great days, and I'd be high and happy. Yeah, this is awesome, mad. And then there'd be 3 pretty bad days in a row. And what's going on? Why don't I feel good? To work into the legend space has taken, and I don't say I'm a permanent legend. I might go for 3 months in that space where I'm cracking it. Everything's going really well, and then I'll go, I'm having a week off, and I end up becoming a little bit more of I call it a break.
Okay. Well,
It's a break. It's not a down. It's not, because I try and limit not getting there. So
every legend needs a break.
a holiday.
A holiday.
Yeah.
A holiday. And that's why I'm kind of unapologetic about calling the bottom line losers. And I know it sounds horrible, but it's you've got 2 options. You either stay in denial. Okay, you could have stayed there. That could have affected the rest of your life, and you would have been in a perpetual cycle of failure. Or you do what you did, and you give yourself an option to actually say, hey, I'm noticing that this is happening. My actions need to be different, and therefore I am going to change, which immediately moves you out of that status.
Well, the thing is, I have a lot of people who come in that your loser bracket.
Yeah.
I call them other things, but not that. So they come to me and they're that, and they've done exactly what you want them to do, and that is they've identified, they know they've got a problem, they've tried many, many things over the years, they've put their hand up and said, hey, I need help. So to get from there, though, it's really hard. And one thing is to get from that loser space that you refer to as loser space, to get out of that into the liker space, to engage and see that they're not and be a part of society and engage in different ways.
Well, they're
it's
still
not
on
easy.
they're still on the outer edge. I wouldn't say that they engage so much until they hit that lender space where they're actually okay, we're going to do this. So it's almost like that stage just before that. But the interesting thing when you talk about the loser thing, it's not an identity. It's more around an action. So it's like I could be a loser in terms of my weight loss story because I've eaten crap all my life, but I am a legend at work.
Exactly.
Or I'm a legend parent because my kids love me and I have the best relationship with them. So it could just be in one aspect of your life, or it could just be around actions. You display loser type behaviors according to your actions, but it's not necessarily an identity. You are not a loser. So I need to make that distinction. Does that get me off the hook?
No, get you off the hook.
Okay,
I get it.
Good. And now that we're in the company of legends and I've understood or tried to explain what a loser is, I'm off the hook and we are going to some music. So we will be back in just a second.
Pure Class A high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
So Facebook, let's keep the play rolling. So we spoke to before about all of Cam's amazing celebrity clients. I was a child of the 90s. Well, I was a child of the 70s, but I
Just trying to bump it.
well, no, I have an innate love of all things pop music. It's probably my favorite. That and early 90s dance music. And I also hit London and started my London journey at the end of the 90s. So the Spice Girls were like huge, massive.
I used to dance around the lounge to some of their songs.
Did you? What was your favorite?
No, I don't need to tell you. No, we don't.
Me. Spice up your life.
No.
Stop.
If you want to get...
Who do you think you are?
No, I'm not actually doing it. It's quite fun.
Mama.
No, not Mama.
He's a mama's boy.
No. Anyway, they are a wonderful group.
They are.
Were a wonderful group.
Why won't you tell us your favorite?
No, it feels weird. I feel like a teenage girl. No thanks. Anyway, so were you ever a loser?
Was I ever a loser? Yeah, I would say more often than not. Yeah, I would say more often than not. I would say that as far as the loser space goes, it's funny. It's almost like I'm all or nothing.
Right.
Yeah, I'll either jump into legend space
And full steam ahead,
get something done, and then go back to, but at the same time, stop myself from doing stuff. So
in that scale, remember how you said the depressed was over here at 0 and complete happiness was at 10? That loser space, does that mean that also relates to those?
Yeah, I would imagine it is, because I would imagine that if you are down at depressed, you have to be at like a 0, 1, 2, down around there. And so when you're saying like your people with weight loss, some of your clients come and see you for change, they'd almost have to be down there. Otherwise,
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Maybe even 4. So they're not quite in that full depressed. They're sort of teetering. They've been in denial. They've blocked it. They're like, I'm not dealing with this. Yeah, I'm big. I'll deal with it later. I'll try and diet. I'll try these different things. They haven't gotten to hopeless. Right? So at hopeless, and that is like at the end of depression, that's a 0 and a 1.
Yep.
They're not putting their hand up for help. They need someone to come and grab them and give them help. Yeah.
Or acceptance. So they've actually accepted, this is who I am. They've made every excuse under the sun as to why things that you offer can't help them, or won't ever help them. That you don't understand them, they're different for whatever reason, and so they go into that space of denial. So they've actually accepted that that's their lot in life, and that's how it is. And then that also makes them a bit depressed because they look around and
everyone's having fun. But that's my favourite stuff. My stuff is getting the sub 5s into the 5 area, 5 and 6, and I consider 5 and 6 happy, right?
Yeah, 5 and 6 is happy.
If I get someone that's from down there, moving, happier, believing in themselves, kicking some goals, getting out, giving genuine friendship that they haven't probably experienced, that keeps edging them up into that 5 category, and that for me means, do you know what? Here's the reins. Now you need to take some responsibility. That's where they become learnt, they've understand, they've made progress, they've made some changes, we've made massive life changes in terms of habits. We've put all new ones in place and we get them to there because people can function at 5. they can work them way up over years to get to the happy place.
Yeah. Well, I almost want to also suggest that a 9 and a 10 are almost like so unachievable that we always will want to move forward into, like, a 6 wants to become a 7 wants to become 8, an 8 might slip back to 7.
It can be fleeting,
and you fluctuate.
I do know a couple of 8, 9s, and you know they're the least financially driven people I've ever met. They don't work in that 9 to 5 realm. Yeah. They do work, or they might work like they might work sunrise, sunset, 3 months in a row, and then go, I'm happy with that effort, and then not work for the rest of the year. So for that,
but they love what they do.
No. So what they do is they might.
What do I know?
But they might be working for 3 months straight, and it's not a job they like, right? But they know that the reward allows them emotional or mental freedom, physical freedom. So and they
batten the hatches, and then they love the break.
Yeah. So because they're only working for a certain period of time, they can't hate it. I just got to get in there, do the job. That's all it is. Means to an end. It's a purpose. And they go, I don't have to love that. I just need to do that to get this.
Who doesn't love not working? So I really feel like I need to get your favourite Spice Girl song.
If you want to be my lover.
If you want to.
You got to get with my friends. That just seemed a bit wrong, but I liked it anyway.
Well, if you want to be my lover, is that the one in the desert?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. I used to dance around my lounge room to that. We had a round rug, and I used to dance around. Yeah, anyway.
How'd that go down in the country? You're a
country
country
boy,
yeah.
No, it was so funny because my brother would have been outside doing something. My dad would have been mowing the lawns. Mum would have been doing the washing. No one else would have seen it.
It's always the way. Always the way. All right, I'm being pointed at. 2, 3.
Push them up.
Yeah? Sorry about that. I was being pointed at about, like, the microphone wasn't on. We are going to come back. We're going to come back to... oh, I see. He thought that we were still filming the show, but we're not. We're just doing for you.
We're live.
There's still music playing, and we're going to finish that right about now.
Pure Class A high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
Welcome back to the Life Hack Show with Greg Sellar and my special guest co-host today, Mr. Cam Byrnes, transformational expert, trained it to the stars, got your own coaching programs. What are the coaching programs? You got a 6-week one and a 12-week one. What's the difference?
Look, the 6-week one is what I call my little snapshot. It's the amount of mental space someone can commit to if you haven't committed to anything before. 6 weeks is that time where you can get to the halfway point and go, oh, why have I done this? But the end's in sight, right? And it's easy to digest, easy to follow. There's nothing ridiculous in it. And if you can't follow this, then you need to go back to the beginning and start again, because you should be able to finish 6 weeks of discipline.
Okay.
The 12-week is a different story.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a journey, right? It's about, the ups and downs, falling off, getting back up, the emotional journey, why did you do it, getting people around you to support, all these different things happen. You come to the end of it and you go, oh my God, I'm a better person. You might have had a little bit of weight loss, you've got fitness, you've broken all bad habits, you don't even want to eat chocolate anymore, you don't drink as much, you exercise regularly, and you're addicted to it. So we find in the 12 weeks that you've done a full overhaul.
Yeah. Good. And did I see on your website, which we'll talk about a little later, you've got some upcoming intakes?
Yeah. We just.
This will test you whether you know your dates or not.
I think it's the 30th of November. We're kicking off the next round, and it's actually it's my ultimate results program, and I've called it this because there is so much meaty stuff in there about mindset mobility.
Good.
It's learning how to take what you're thinking, flip it on its side, look at it from a different angle, understand it, play with it, and then throw it out. So you can conceptualize what you've been doing and then replace it with some new mindset stuff, new behavior.
George Miller, who was a psychologist back in 1956, actually came up with what he called Miller's Law, or I guess other people called it Miller's Law. And basically what he said is that in the short-term memory, or over larger concepts and things to remember, chunks of information, that the short-term memory can only take in 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information at a time, which basically translates, at some point with the way the modern world is, your attention has to be divided, and that when you divide your attention, you are literally giving yourself an opportunity to do many things not very well. You know, we're living in a world right now where there's 130 million books in existence, 2 million new books get published every year, and if you're a consumer of YouTube video content, 500 hours gets, are you ready for this? Gets uploaded every single minute. And that is not to mention the ever-increasing size of the internet. So with all of that coming at us, with all of the information that we get overloaded with, there is going to be a struggle for what we pay attention to, and that's going to get worse and worse and worse over time. So I guess the question is your brain paying attention to the right things over the wrong things? The stuff that's going to move you forward towards success versus the stuff that's going to keep you exactly where you are, or heaven forbid, move you backwards. Wagwan.
Well, look, okay, I'm going to put my hand up and say, you know, that video stuff, that's really cool.
Yeah,
like, and I love it.
Cam actually is responsible for 498 hours of the 500 uploaded every minute.
Like, I was down at the Fitness Expo on the weekend. Yeah. I did a video of the thing, a bit
I saw
of
that
stuff. Yeah, and you know what? That was content. Now, I did it in 2 minutes. I had to cut it down to 1, so I was only responsible for that day for 1 minute. But I put my hand up, and I'm like guilty. Like, I watch a lot of stuff that's stuff, and it entertains me, but it's certainly not making me any better, unless I have cool friends that send me links. Hey, you got to watch this. And then I'm like, wow, this is cool. I learned something in the last 15 minutes. I need more stuff of this, but where do you find it, and how does it come across you when social media, video content, and YouTube is literally flung straight at you? Like, literally, you open your phone and it says 3 new notifications. You've got 4 new videos to watch. Da, 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 da. And you go through Insta Story. You're like, oh my god, this is so addictive. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And you're like, before you know it, you've spent 15 minutes of something you could have used that may have enlightened your day. In fact, you've just seen 15 people eat their breakfast.
I know, it's crazy, and I think what it does, we spoke a little bit about this last week, is it can actually set your headspace on the wrong track for the day. Because let's be honest, nobody posts their real day. Do you post your real day? I mean, nobody posts their real. Like, we're down here at Bondi Beach. The sun is shining. It looks amazing. You know, we're heading into summer. I could post pictures of this today as being the summary of my day, but in actual fact, you know, I had to get up this morning. I had to prep for this. You know, we're here doing this, which is amazing. I'm going to go home. I'm going to work for the rest of the day. I got another meeting at 6:30 back in the city. You know, it's like...
There's nothing glamorous about it.
There's nothing...
But my life, it's glamorous. And everyone who follows me will tell you that my life rocks. I had a really good breakfast this morning. I think it was oats and some berries. It was good.
Can we find it on Instagram?
No, it'll be my Insta story though.
All right.
Yeah.
Check it out, people. Check it out. So, I guess, you know, coming back to the idea that we need to start paying attention to the right type of things. Have you ever had that day, you know, where you get up in the morning and the alarm hasn't gone off, you're late for work, and all of a sudden things just snowball, they cascade, and you go from this idea of it being an okay day or a new day where there is potential for it to be okay or more, and it just ends up being the worst because you've let it become that way. You know, all of a sudden you're late for work, you hop on the bus and there's no seats on the bus, and all of a sudden, you know, you hate your commute, and then you think, oh, the boss is going to be so angry because I'm late, and you get into work and you think, oh, this is so stupid, you know, I'm late, I'm going to get into trouble, I hate my life, why am I even doing this job, it doesn't pay me enough money,
I actually had
It
that
gets
this
worse.
morning. No. So my glamorous life and it's all perfect. It actually happened this morning. So I put my alarm on. I didn't sleep very well. I have diabetes and I mixed up my insulin. So I was up 3 times to go to the bathroom, which means I didn't have a good sleep. That means I left the house late. Then a semi-trailer was blocking the road because I was reversing. So I was late to my first session with a client who insists on being like right on time, and I was late. Speaking of which, then I thought, you know what, I'm so hungry afterwards, I didn't get to eat. Well, and I had breakfast. Well, that's when I had the oats. So I went around to get oats. But in the meantime,
Check it out on Instagram.
in the meantime, I got a parking fine.
No.
I know. So then I was. I had to go to have another meeting, but mind you, then I got this email to say that our session today was at a different time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've got all this time in the world, and then I get this message from Greg going, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" And they're like, "No." So my whole day has not gone to plan at all. Yet I had and I tipped on a brand new program I was writing my bottle of water. It fell out of my bag and landed sideways open, and just water all over it. So it's gone. So like an hour and a half worth of work of brain putting on paper is gone. Anyway, so I still made it here literally with 2 minutes to spare. No, and I am still positive and I'm still smiling. I only chucked one tantrum, that's it. And I didn't want today to beat me. And I just thought, because you actually just said that then, and it literally was my morning.
And there you have it. The only way is up.
Because I'm taking all the negative spin, and you know this, and you just said it, one negative spin can lead to another, and it's a snowball. Like, things that wouldn't normally like piss you off really piss you off.
Yeah.
And it keeps elevating. And I make a point of my clients when they're having a bad day, I sit and breathe, let's take a moment, nothing's really that bad, it's all okay. And I had to do that when I got my parking fine. That was like, it's okay, it's just money, it's okay.
I get that way with finances, speaking of money. You know, where you kind of like look at a bank balance and you go, oh my God, I'm 42. Like, I'm 42. How can I not have this or this or this? And then I totally lose the plot with thinking what I do actually have. Which brings me to my next point. It's like, are we paying attention to the stuff that we want rather than the stuff that we don't want? Are we paying attention to the things we already have versus the things that we don't have? And when we talk about something called attention density, it's that idea of just trying to focus on the things that are actually going to make the most difference in your life. Otherwise, like you said before, with all the social media content consumption, most of it's just fluff.
But that comes down to materialistic things, because you see, you're forever watching social media fluff, but you see that in a new pair of shoes and and it's forever. That's all compounding. Like, I want to buy that, I need to do this, I need a new watch, I need that car, I need to have this holiday. And it becomes this consuming of everything, and nothing is actually valuable. Nothing. It all costs us something. So the fluffy stuff on social, that costs us time. That puts us behind and costs us our valuable time. Buying things costs the money that we've spent hours working for, that the exchange doesn't worth, that those shoes aren't the value of the time we've spent at the job.
True.
So there's this compounding use of time on stuff that ends up being worth nothing.
And I think it's really interesting, you know, when we spoke about Miller's Law, seven things is all you can really retain in your short-term memory. And like I said before, it's like a container. You know, if the container's full, you can't just cram more in there. You actually have to take stuff out, delete it, get rid of it, or store it in the long-term memory before you can put new stuff in. So the question is, what are we getting rid of?
That's true, and unfortunately, it's usually stuff that we've learned or skimmed over that hasn't been etched in for long enough. So they say, 21 days for something to really get stored into that deep, long-term stuff?
Yeah.
So we need to have that repeating for 21 days for us to then store it properly to bring it out whenever we need it.
Yeah.
And if we're just watching someone's Instagram feed, and that's what we're watching every morning, I know, I'm feeding fodder to these people, I'm sorry. The same thing happens.
Yeah.
So we're then conditioned over 21 days as to follow, hey, look at Jim's morning workout, look at Stacey's new shoes, look at her car, oh my God, everyone's amazing. And then we end up feeling bad because we don't have that glamorous life.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's key in trying to understand, you know, what you pay attention to, you will get more of. And if you change your attention, you can literally, in one swoop, change your world. You know, had you paid attention this morning to nothing else other than the stuff that was wrong with it, the rest of your day would have very little chance of getting better.
No, do you know, after the parking fine, I was looking for a quick dive down. I'm like, not going to happen. Not going to happen today. I've got too much stuff to do.
And you soldiered on, and look at you now.
My energy changes. So I know this big one, because I'm on people's energy, vibes, whatever goes on. As soon as mine dives, whoever I'm around, I'll bring them down.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how my energy works. So if I need to be around people all day, I have to go, no, forget that, push that aside, that's not important, I'm not saving cancer, that's not going to kill me. All those sort of things have to happen very quickly, and then I just go, okay, I'll deal with that later, that's not important.
Yeah. So basically, figure out what you're paying attention to. That's going to be the biggest stuff. Is what you're paying attention to going to move you forward and close the gap that Cam talked about before in moving you up that scale? So a little bit less of the depressed and a little bit more towards the Oprah style of things. The thing that's going to get you there is going to be what type of mindset you actually have. And you've got two types of mindsets as defined by Carol Dweck. So she's a Stanford University professor who pretty much wrote the definitive book on mindset called, bizarrely enough, Mindset.
Wow, that's a good book.
Yeah, she put a lot of thought into
So
that.
catchy.
Yeah. And anyway, Carol, you know, it's a good thing she wrote the book because she's not the most dynamic speaker I've ever heard. One of those,
That's quite ironic, really.
she's very intellectual. So she actually came up with fixed versus growth mindset and the definition of each. And I have to be honest, I don't cry. I very rarely cry, except when I'm on a plane. You know when they suck the oxygen out of a plane and you watch sad movies or movies, I don't know, it just something on a plane gets me.
Never, not once, ever.
It does. It's a fact. Wait. It's a fact. They take oxygen out of the plane to get people to sleep. So the oxygen's clearly not the same, but that lack of oxygen does actually make you more emotional. That's the story. That's the incorrect story that I'm sticking to.
Okay, that's what I was just about to say. Who told you this?
Somebody who's involved in aviation, I will have you know.
Do they cry too?
Possibly.
I've never cried on a plane. I've only ever cried getting on a plane because I didn't want to come home. That's the only time I've ever cried.
That's right.
No. Every time. I cry all the time. What am I kidding?
Anyway, the point we're getting at is I read the book Mindset on a plane, and I actually had tears in my eyes because I realized, and this is only like last year, I had spent most of my time living in a fixed mindset.
And that's got to suck.
It kind of did, yeah, because I just thought I spend most of my time worrying about whether or not I will win or lose in situations, whether I will be good or not good at something, and if the answer is no, I will steer away from it.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of the habit. So, for example, if people go, oh, let's go bowling. Not that they say this, but like if that was a fun thing to do, no offense to all the bowlers out there, like if that was a fun thing to do, I'd actually weigh up, am I going to be okay at bowling? Am I going to look like a dick or not? And if I think I'm going to look like a dick, I'll just say, oh, no thanks.
See, I'm the opposite. I'll say yes to everything. Yes to everything. If I stuff it up, I'm like, oh, I probably won't do that again, but thanks for inviting me.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely. And that would be part of the growth mindset. So the fixed mindset actually looks at themselves as having qualities around an innate talent. They're either good at something or they're not, and once they reach that ceiling of talent, that's it, show's over. I wouldn't say that's exactly me, and certainly not anymore. The growth side, however, says it's not that I don't know it, it's just that I don't know it yet, and if I put the right amount of effort in, I can expand my capabilities and I can become more. And so that is the difference between a fixed or growth mindset.
But there are these situations where people do have the potential for those I guess growth sections in their mindset, but they're the environment is around fixed mindseted people,
Yep.
which doesn't inspire them or motivate them to grow from that, because they're in that safe area and they don't know anything else. And that comes back to with our parents who are in fixed mindsets, and we grow up with that. And if we don't see things growing and moving, we don't do that either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it all kind of feeds into each other. If that is the experience that you have gained from, and we blame parents, but it could be a host of things. It could be your early friend set, it could be aunties, uncles, grandparents, it could be your early teachers that you had in your schooling.
But also
there's lots of
personality.
different influences.
Your own personality. So some people are extroverts, introverts, all these different things play a part to that.
Yeah. One characteristic of the growth mindset, however, is that they don't try and hide their deficiencies. They'd rather just work on them. So there's this, they're okay with that sense of failure, for want of a better term, because they just use it as this method to change course. That didn't necessarily work. Yeah, it was a bit painful, but I won't do that again.
Yep.
And they just change course and learn from it. And that's a key distinction between both. I think you can have a fixed mindset and still have relative success in life, but it's at what cost?
But it's usually a safe risk.
The other hard thing that fixed mindset people actually do is they try and surround themselves with they try and create a flawless life. So they'll try and find a partner who doesn't challenge them. They will find work colleagues or employees, if they're a business owner, who basically think that they're great, they're amazing, and they rule that way. And they will teach their children in such a way. And Carol's got this great saying in the book Mindset, where she's like, if you want to be surrounded by worshippers, go to church. That is the number one place to be, where if you want to create this flawless life, it might be flawless to you, but in actual fact, you're not achieving anything because you are spinning on your own little top.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Just to find that people create their environments to make them give the illusion of they've got things happening, it's moving, they're popular, or all these things, but really nothing, there's no traction.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting to ask yourself some of the questions. How do you go into situations? How do you view situations as they come to you? Do you, like you said, I'll do anything, I'll be up for the challenge? Or do you actually sit back and say, no, if I'm not going to be good at it, if I think I might lose, if I'm going to look a bit stupid around it, then I really don't want to find out that I'm not good at this, and therefore I'm not going to do it.
I was asked to apply for the Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
And normally, if the 25-year-old Cam got asked to do this, I would have done it. But I'm that one. I think I went into that fixed mindset of now, I don't want to do things if I'm going to break myself.
Well, also, you've broken on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, we broke it on TV. So I was just like, so now there's a lot of events that come up, and like I'm 37, and I put my body through the paces since I was about 12 years old, through sports and training and heavy lifting, compound lifting. I tried CrossFit, but things broke. Look, my body doesn't do the things it used to do, and I've already flogged it enough where I go, well, that's going to break, this is going to break, and I'm now, my fixed mindset, which I've learnt now through trial and error and injury, that, protection first, safety first, longevity of physicality first. So I've now created one of those fixed mindsets around extreme workouts.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I'm starting to think that way as well, like I said, at 42, just with running, I'm like, at what point, how there's that classic thing with running where people get to this age, and I don't know what age it is, where the run becomes a walk, and that becomes their fitness. It's like, I've stopped running, so now I walk. I've stopped doing fitness, and now I do yoga or Pilates. Not that there's anything wrong with that, they're great forms of exercise, but like, I look at yoga people in particular, who have the most amazing mobility and flexibility at any age. And I think they're still able to move. You either have a 65-year-old person who can't move. They have difficulty walking, their knees are bung, their hips are gone, whatever. Or you have a 65-year-old person who, does splits and can do yoga and all that sort of stuff.
So that mindset thing, at one point, They've gone to fixed. Hey, I'm old, I shouldn't do exercise. They've gone, hey, what's next? I'm bored, I don't want to sit at home. Hey, I want to be fit, I like feeling good. Let's do this. And they've opened up, go, I'll give that a try, and they become yogis, you know. And that all comes down to, there's a point where you can change and flick it, depending on like your exercise mindset.
Yeah. Well, they say I can't do that, and somebody told me something really interesting once. They said, "Don't say can't, say won't," because that's what you're actually saying.
You actually say, "I won't do it."
I won't do it. I won't do it. And there's two different meanings. So it's a slight play on words. So yeah, around fixed and growth mindset, just figure out where you're coming from. What's your mentality around it, and what would it actually take for you to move into a growth mindset? What would be the repercussions? And typically you'll find out that there aren't any, or no lasting repercussions. You know, it's not going to be the end of the world, even if things don't work out, and who knows, they just might. All right, so as we close up this particular show, I usually ask my guest co-hosts to tell us about a book that they have read that has really rocked their world. Over to you, Cam.
Thanks. Okay, so
I love it. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for throwing it.
It's from this cool guy that I just met yesterday. Actually, his name's Taki Moore. He's the leading guy in coaching coaches to be better coaches, right? And it's not just, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's a sales guy." Well, he's actually not a sales guy. What he does is he teaches you how to explain all your cool stuff, unpack your stuff, call it something, and share it with everyone. But it's in a way that makes them want more from you. And for what it did for me, so I read the book. I actually sped read it on my iPad like last week. So I was like,
the cliff notes.
Yeah, no, I actually read the whole thing from start to finish. I found the time, did a bit of travel, so I literally powered through every page. Was a page turner. I was like, what's next? What's next? So I felt like I was getting a lot of good, great content for me. So that's outside of my realm. So I'm not great at learning. Don't really like it. So I was actually engaged in this. So my mindset was open. I was like, I'm growing. This is really good. And I was happy for that. So then I went and did his full day class yesterday, and he brought out some of his stuff in the book, but a whole bunch of new stuff. I was like, oh my God, this is new stuff. I didn't read this in the book. So what I did is I came away from that, and my mindset went from, oh my God, I feel like I've hit a roof in what my business and everything was going on. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm in control, but nothing's happening. And he's changed my mindset to go, but you can do what you're doing, but do it differently. And this will take you there. I'm like, wow. That's a different way to think of things. So for me, that the book and that process allowed me to go from here's where I'm thinking I'm doing good to I want to be great though. How can I help more people and get more stuff out, and how do I deliver it and how do I get to them? And he just showed me this is what you should be doing. This is what you need to do. This is how we do it. Come and share it with us. Great. And for me it was awesome.
So just remind everyone, what's the book called?
It's called $1 Million Coach by Taki Moore.
$1 Million Coach. Taki Moore, I love that name.
It's a cool name. He's an Aussie. He lives everywhere. Actually, do you know what? He's that good a coach. He does it from anywhere. So he takes his family. He's got like 6 kids. And this one spent 2 months on a boat in Portugal. I'm like, wow, I want to be one of those coaches.
You can be with that growth mindset, Cam. We're gonna wrap it up there. But where can people on social media or your website for your coaching programs find you?
You can have a look at www.cams12wp.com.au. All my socials, which are all Cameron Byrnes, Byrnes, PT. So at Cameron Byrnes, PT.
Good. All right. So check out all Cam's stuff. And from us to you guys, both in Facebook land out and also out on the Bondi Radio app. Don't forget to download the Bondi Radio app and go and like the page. You can also find me at my website, Greg Sellar, SELLAR.com, and all the handles are Greg Sellar. Funny that, on all social media. Let's continue the conversation somewhere else. We'll see you back next week at exactly the same time. But Cam, thanks for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure being here.
And thank you for joining us once again. Until next week, bye-bye.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
Thanks, Cam.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's really cool.
Thank you to you guys also for spending the time with us. Don't forget to check out the websites, and we'll get some smaller clips up on YouTube. Share it out with your friends, and if you've got any comments or questions, let's continue the conversation. online somewhere or on social media. From us to you, ciao ciao.